first. Hello. So many friends, so many former colleagues. I miss this building. I send greetings from the biker pit. I'm very happy to be here with you all today, and I apologize for running a little late. We had an event up in Burlington, of course, the slush on the road slowed us down a bit, but look, there's so much that we could talk about, and I know that Lori sent me some notes about things that you were particularly interested in. So I want to make sure that I touch on those things, and hopefully we will have time for questions. While I'm grabbing my notes, the first thing I want to say is, I look pretty good, right? Yeah. People worry. They worry about me. I get a lot of texts, and I know you want me to go there. All right. Okay. A lot of texts and emails from folks about how I'm doing. I think I was actually built for this moment in that where do you want me to?
Yeah, come back here, Becca. Come back here.
That will help. That will help.
Okay.
Come back all the way around.
Come back.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, here we go.
It's still more.
Here we go. Okay. Is that better? Okay. Okay. So what I wanted to say is that I feel like I was built for this moment in the sense of I feel very focused. I feel very clear that what is required right now is complete and total attention. And it requires a depth of commitment that each and every one of us, not just those of us in legislative leadership or in elected office across the state or country, it is requiring of each of us that we show up with great courage and commitment in this moment. And I know that what you're seeing out of Minnesota is incredibly alarming on so many fronts. I was out in Minnesota, and before that I was in Chicago to do oversight. I served on the Judiciary Committee and the Budget Committees. And what I want to say to folks in the room here and people who might be watching on the live stream is that this is not an issue of partisanship when we are talking about defending the Constitution. And what I saw in Minnesota was not about immigration enforcement that has crossed over a line into brutality. I saw American citizens that were being detained. I saw ICE and Border Patrol agents not honoring the Fourth Amendment or the Second Amendment or the First Amendment. And again, this isn't about party. If we don't have the structure and we don't support the structure of our government, then we don't have the rule of law anymore. And we can't build an economy, because I was just up talking to the Vermont Chamber. You need that structure. You need to know that law is going to be there and that it's predictable. And so I can't express enough to all of you that this is a moment that requires a clarity from any thinking person, regardless of party. And I talked to a lot of Republicans in the House, and I want to just peel back the curtain a little bit, because a lot of people ask me, will you have a Jim Jeffords moment? Right? We're very proud of our representatives, past and present in Congress and the Senate, when he could no longer identify with his party. And people want to know, are we going to see that? And I will tell you, we're not going to see that. And there are a number of reasons for that, which I just want to lay out really quickly. A lot of people don't understand that the day that President Trump took office for his second term, one of his executive orders, or in the night when he was laying out all of his executive orders, was a full pardon, a full and complete pardon to everyone who had stormed the Capitol, even those who'd been convicted of violent felonies. Now, you probably know that story. What you might not know is that the next day, some of those violent felons came back to the Capitol building. They were walking the halls. They were looking at people who they had brutalized. And then they sat in the gallery in the House chamber, looking down on us. And yes, it was a message to Democrats, but it was more a message to Republicans, saying you will fall in line and you will follow this president because we can act with impunity. That is one of the main reasons you will not see a Jim Jeffords moment. That doesn't mean there aren't some cracks forming. Certainly, we saw a number of elected officials at the governor level. Certainly, our own governor made a statement. I was happy to see that, condemning what had happened in Minnesota, but also very staunch conservative Republicans like Governor Abbott in Texas. You also had the Oklahoma governor making a statement. Many people who are seeing that even if you went along with the mass deportation program, which was not something I ever supported, but even if you did, what you are seeing is not that anymore. So there are cracks forming. We also saw when we were trying to reinstate the ACA subsidies, we saw in the end, we had 4 Republicans who crossed the aisle in an extraordinary moment. And there is, I know many of you are going to wish that you had this mechanism I'm going to talk about. It's called a discharge petition in the House. And it allows all of us to do an end run around whoever's in leadership. If there's something that enough people in the chamber agree on, and of course you need bipartisan support right now because we're so evenly divided. We got a bipartisan group of people to get on a discharge petition, to bring it to the floor. And then for the procedural vote, we had 9 Republicans. So for four Republicans with us, 9 Republicans with us. And then on the final vote, 17 Republicans crossed the line to vote with us on the ACA subsidy. So there are these cracks. The Senate right now, I know people were wondering about budget, continuing resolution. We have a looming deadline on a government shutdown. So we sent over funding packages, and I was one of the vast majority of Democrats who voted against the DHS funding package that included additional funding for ICE. That's now in the Senate, and it has been bundled into a complete package in the Senate, which makes it more difficult for them to figure out how to maneuver. But a number of high-ranking Democrats and also some Republicans saying that they have to re-examine that package and perhaps use a maneuver in the Senate to come to an agreement to strip out ICE funding, send the other funding packages back. We still may have a partial shutdown if we're not able to get that done on the deadline, but I don't anticipate it will be long-term. I think the tide is turning. I think a lot of people can no longer support this regime, this mass deportation regime, when you have members of this administration blatantly lying to the American people, but also lying to Congress. I was able to see some of the information that they sent to Republican colleagues before they had gone out on the talk shows. And what they were sent was complete and total lies and misinformation. And so there are some cracks. It's not happening fast enough. This has been an incredibly challenging year on so many fronts. I know here in Vermont, we're still dealing with a terrible housing crisis. Healthcare right now is scaring the hell out of everybody, and how we're going to be able to find a way through with $1 billion cut from Medicaid, which of course impacts our rural hospitals, but it also raises premiums for all of us. It's the other piece of that. And of course, I talk to a lot of small businesses who don't know how they're going to navigate this moment without the ACA subsidies, because a lot of their employees got their coverage on the exchange. So I'm frustrated that the Senate probably is not going to take up our clean bill on an ACA extension for 3 years. That would, from my perspective, that would be the easiest thing to do. Get us through the midterms, get us through the presidential, take it off the plate for both sides of the aisle. Give consumers of healthcare that confidence, that stability, and then let's restructure. I'm a Medicare for all person. I know that the subsidies are not the solution, but we have to give people some financial stability right now before we can have that deeper bipartisan conversation. And we sure as hell can't have that in a few weeks' time. You cannot rewrite healthcare in a few weeks. They know it, we know it, and so it's farcical at this point. But I think we will get some kind of extension. I hope the agreement coming from the Senate hopefully will be, well, I should knock on wood. We'll see what we get. See what we get. A lot of people have asked how I keep my spirits up, how I continue to do this job. Certainly, I am inspired by everyday Americans who are continuing to stand up for their neighbors and each other. I am somebody who is always about trying to build coalitions within my caucus. I count friends among our staunch blue dogs all the way through the progressive caucus that I serve on. Anyone that I have within my caucus in all of those pockets, they're potential allies for things that Vermonters care deeply about. And so I'm constantly looking to the future. I have not given up on bipartisanship, but I will not negotiate away the rights of every single American in order to get to that bipartisanship. Okay, so I think I hit on all the things she wanted me to touch on. Let's open it up to questions or comments. If there's just things that you want me to know that I may not be thinking about. Oh,
We have a couple minutes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, hello, how are you?
Emily Krasnow, South Burlington, Chittenden Valley. Hello.
Nice to see you.
Too. I wanted to make a comment. It's nothing that you haven't heard but I want to tell my caucus too, and it is a national issue. The other day I was taking an Uber and the driver told me that he had stage 4 cancer and he had taken on the extra job for Uber to pay for his health insurance now. And I did mention what I do and gave him my card, but I continue to hear these stories from Vermonters and feel like there's nothing I can say. And so now he's working a second job while he has stage 4 cancer just to pay for his health insurance that he needs.
Yes. Emily, this is the hardest part for all of us who are in public service right now. We are working as hard as we can, and it's not enough. We are fighting so hard every day on behalf of our constituents, and it's not enough. And those same stories that you're all hearing, I am hearing in Washington, D.C. as well, as people very courageously come into the budget committee to give statements about, this is the experience that I'm having right now. It's terrifying that people are not able to get the health care that they need and deserve. And I think we have had in this country an erroneous assumption that is baked in so much of the public rhetoric about who is worthy and who is not worthy to have, whether it's health insurance or a decent life or have housing. I would think that in this moment, when there is every single age group right now, except for those at the highest age bracket, every single age group right now feels like the American dream, the middle class, is out of reach. So this is absolutely part of the economic equation that people have to struggle with every day. And I have those same conversations too, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And all we can do is continue to say, we're going to keep fighting, that it is not good enough. So you're welcome.
We have 2 questions and then we'll be done. Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Healthcare, hospitals. There's been a lack of leadership at the national level, and I'd say at the state level too. And we have a system in Vermont that's teetered. I know we can't do it in a few weeks. Is there the energy, and I'm assuming this is a problem across the station, across the nation, the way Vermont is looking at it.
It is.
Is there the energy in Congress to fill the void of lack of leadership that we need to actually really do something?
So I was just it's very timely, the last budget committee hearing that I had was just a few days ago, and we were talking about healthcare. And what is incredibly frustrating for all of us is that for 15 years, we have had the Republican Party and Trump in particular talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. 15 years. 15 years without a proposal, without a plan. 15 years. That's a long time. And it has taken a while for my colleagues on the other side to also understand that we have too much concentrated power and vertical integration within the healthcare industry across the country. And so in that hearing the other day, I said to my chair, who I actually have a very good relationship with, he's Republican from Texas, I said, Jody, when are we going to talk about healthcare monopolies? When are we going to talk about pharmacy benefit managers? When are we going to actually do the work in a bipartisan manner? Because there are Republicans that want to have this work too, because their constituents are also struggling to find affordable healthcare. And so he made a promise to me that we would have a bipartisan meeting specifically about that. And I serve on the antitrust subcommittee on judiciary as well. That's where we have to do this work. And I do think that's a place where we can find some partners on the other side, because they are hearing all of those horrible stories, just like Emily's hearing. They're hearing the same things. So I am a hopeful person, though I'm not naive. And so it's going to take people accepting, in the case of the Affordable Care Act. Here's one other thing I want to say about the Affordable Care Act. This was a Republican plan. This was the Republican plan. That was Romney Care. It was only after Obama was elected and decided to take up a market-based solution that Republicans decided that they hated this plan. So that isn't the plan that Democrats wanted. Democrats wanted something more akin to Medicare for all. So I live in upside down land every day when I go in to these committees. But I think there is an appetite now for structural change, though I fear it's not going to really happen until after the midterms.
All right, one last question.
Oh, I thought,
Sorry, we have one question. Angela was first, sorry.
oh, okay, sorry.
And
All
then
right.
you have to go.
Sorry, I'm a teacher. I'm like, wait. Okay. Yes.
Representative Wilson. So one issue that is wonderfully bipartisan is the issue of tech regulation, big tech and AI regulation. And President Trump has shown a great affinity for his tech bros and is giving them more and more power. And I know that it's not like healthcare. It's not an issue that is front of mind for everybody. But I think that it is central to saving our democracy as we see the deterioration of truth and just understanding what reality is. Social media has contributed to that. So I'm really hoping that you can look for opportunities to support bipartisan legislation, including the repeal of Section 230. I think that would make a really huge difference to hold these companies accountable, because that's the only way they'll change.
I agree. And a couple interesting things happening this week. So you've got this first test case essentially about bringing social media into the courtroom to say, actually, your algorithms and your policies contributed to my child's deterioration around mental health. It's huge. It's huge that we're at that point. Yes, we absolutely have to deal with Section 230. We've been kicking this. I shouldn't say we have only been there 3 years, so I can't take responsibility for all that came before. But Congress has been kicking the can on that, and Americans want change on that. They also are concerned about AI. They're concerned about the fact that DOJ was taking our personal private information, and now it turns out they were doing the nefarious things that we said they were doing, but everyone said they're being hysterical. I do think there's an appetite there, and I also think there's an appetite around intellectual property as it relates to the way these AI models are sucking in the creativity that has been generated by authors and musicians and professors, and is sucked into their AI model without any compensation whatsoever. So there's so many avenues that we can pursue this in. So I wish I could stay for an hour.
We so appreciate your time.
And I just want to say, I very much appreciate knowing that you are back here fighting the good fight here in Vermont, and know that I always think very carefully about how whatever I'm doing in committee is going to impact Vermonters back home. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Before we head out, Rep. Brady.
Thank you.
Hi, Edie Brandon, Jericho, Commerce and Economic Development. I'm gonna stand over here, so that's too many people. We have two bills in committee this week that I just want to give folks a heads up on because we're looking for testimony on them. One is an act relating to agreements for non-competes, so for business non-competes, and the other one is to support survivors of coerced debt and changing some of our banking laws around that. So if you know folks who should testify on those or the non-competes, we don't have a lot of people speaking out on those at all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.